In 1929 Lynchburg, Virginia, young Desmond Doss nearly kills his brother while roughhousing. That event and his Seventh-day Adventist upbringing reinforced Desmond's belief in the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." Years later, Desmond takes an injured man to the hospital and meets a nurse, Dorothy Shutt. They strike a romance, and Desmond tells Dorothy of his interest in medical work. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor brings the United States into World War II, Desmond enlists in the United States Army to serve as a combat medic. His father, Tom, a PTSD-ridden World War I veteran, is deeply upset by the decision. Shortly before leaving, Desmond and Dorothy get engaged. Desmond is placed in basic training with the 77th Infantry Division under the command of Sergeant Howell. He excels physically but becomes a pariah among his fellow soldiers for refusing to handle a rifle and train on Saturdays. Howell and Captain Glover attempt to discharge Desmond for psychiatric reasons under Section 8, but are overruled, as Desmond's religious beliefs do not constitute mental illness. They subsequently torment Desmond by putting him through grueling labor, intending to drive Desmond out. Despite being beaten one night by his fellow soldiers, he refuses to identify his attackers. Desmond's unit completes basic training and is released on leave, during which Desmond intends to marry Dorothy, but his refusal to carry a firearm leads to an arrest for insubordination. Captain Glover and Dorothy visit Desmond in jail and try to convince him to plead guilty so that he can be released without charge, but Desmond refuses to compromise his beliefs. At his court-martial, Desmond pleads not guilty, but before he is sentenced, his father barges into the tribunal with a letter from his former commanding officer, now a brigadier general, stating that his son's pacifism is protected by the U.S. Constitution. The charges against Desmond are dropped, and he and Dorothy are married. Desmond's unit is deployed to the Pacific Theater. During the Battle of Okinawa, Desmond's unit is tasked with ascending and securing the Meade Escarpment, Hacksaw Ridge. During the initial fight, with heavy losses on both sides, Desmond saves the life of his squad mate Smitty, earning his respect. Smitty apologizes for doubting his courage, and Desmond reveals to him that his aversion to holding a firearm stems from nearly shooting his drunken father, who threatened his mother with a gun. The next morning, the Japanese launch a massive counterattack and drive the Americans off the escarpment. Smitty is killed, and Howell and several of Desmond's comrades are left injured on the battlefield. Desmond hears the cries of dying soldiers and returns to save them, carrying the wounded, and Smitty's body, to the cliff's edge and belaying him down by rope, each time praying to save one more. The arrival of dozens of wounded who had been presumed dead comes as a shock to the rest of the unit below. When day breaks, Desmond rescues Howell, and both escape Hacksaw under enemy fire. Captain Glover apologizes for dismissing Desmond's beliefs and states that they are scheduled to retake the ridge on Saturday, but will not launch the next attack without him. Desmond agrees, but the operation is delayed until after he concludes his Sabbath prayers. With reinforcements, they turn the tide of battle. In an ambush set by Japanese soldiers who pretend to surrender, Desmond manages to save Glover and others by deflecting enemy grenades. Desmond is wounded by a grenade blast, but the battle is won. Desmond is lowered from the cliff, clutching the Bible that Dorothy had given to him. The film switches to real photos and footage showing that Desmond was awarded the Medal of Honor by President Harry S. Truman for rescuing 75 soldiers at Hacksaw Ridge, as well as real-life footage of Desmond just before his death, recounting his experiences during the war.